Okay, welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast with me, John Banks, and Andy Lehman. The best hassle-free hustles aimed at giving you more time, money, and freedom. So, this is episode 11. Hello, Andy. How are you this week?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Kind of having a bit of a wonder about the world at the moment with the politics and the way things are going in the UK
Oh yeah,
and
it's
US at
crazy.
the moment.
I know.
I'm struggling to fathom what the hell's going on in this world at the moment after,
Yeah, I think we all
after
are,
this
mate.
week.
So, yeah, I think we all are.
How are you anyway?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I had a bit of a blip personally with the project I'm working on. We talked about it a little bit. Funny enough, I don't know if it was what podcast it was about when we were saying about don't necessarily rely on put all your eggs in one basket and don't rely on one platform. But as much as I didn't do that, but basically I'd created a course and then the subject matter and the tools of which the course was involved in, they kind of just didn't do an update. So I don't know if it's obsolete or I don't know if I've just got to wait for the patch update, but it's not a big deal. We'll get around it somewhere.
One
Anyway,
of the downfalls of being on the internet is things
yeah,
move fast and they don't get
it's a
updated. It's rapidly
rapidly
changing.
moving and evolving space. But yes.
Mm.
So anyway, so what are we going to talk about today?
Right, yeah, we're going to talk about ad arbitrage. Managed to say that properly. I struggle with the word arbitrage for some reason. But yeah, basically ad arbitrage. As you know, you and I have had we had some fun with this a few years ago. We did quite well out of it, really, for considering we were doing it in evenings and weekends.
Yes.
So for those who don't know what ad arbitrage is, that is basically where you use advertising on one platform to drive traffic to your website to generate advertising revenue from a network. So basically you'd be using Facebook ads or native ads. And so let's say that it cost you £1, $1 to get traffic from Facebook to your website. You will be then trying to get at least $2 back off the advertising revenue generated from the network, such as AdSense, or I think Mediavine is the other big thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's right. So yeah, so basically, essentially, that is it in a nutshell, isn't it? It's basically, like you said, you'd spend money on one platform, and then the returns that you would get from the ad network from your website would obviously be greater than what you've just spent. So in your example, like you say, if you spend $1 on Facebook ads, you drive traffic to your website, and then the ads that the revenue generated from the ads that people click on, or in some cases people view, or if it's a video people watch, would be more than the dollar that you've just spent. Okay, that's it. Very, very basic terms. Obviously, there's a few tweaks and tips which we'll talk about in this episode, which will help you to achieve that. And this is not. We should also stress that this is not an easy thing. It's not something that straight away your first ad you're likely to succeed at. It does take a little bit of persistence. Like you say, we learned it was a bit of a different time. I wouldn't say it was the sort of gold rush of Facebook ads, but it wasn't far shortly after that when everything was a lot cheaper. So it was, it was not easy, but it was easier, say 5 years ago. But there's a lot more there's a lot more ad networks out there now. So I think there is still potential for it. I mean, I still see these types of websites around now. I see them on my social media feeds every now and again. So for people that aren't familiar, what sort of websites are we talking about? I think we've touched on it before, but if you just give everyone a kind of a brief summary on that.
I mean, there's different there's kind of different types, but generally it's all, I would say, fun and general interest, as what we used to call viral content websites. So this is basically content that people would just enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, for example, social media is really, I mean, apart from Twitter, which seems to be a social media site for arguing, Facebook is a place where you go just to chill and enjoy. It's an entertainment place, really, and so we would create posts that we believe people would just enjoy.
Yeah.
And so these would be on websites. It's not just us. I mean, there was obviously the big guy, Viral Nova, who was rumored to be making at one point between 500,000 and 1 million US dollars a month at its height.
Yeah.
But they were just sharing curiosity-driven articles, entertaining articles, just fun articles, interesting, intriguing, sort of stuff that will get shared about, people enjoy. There's obviously different levels in there, because I say there was a guy who was doing one which was to do with the news around the election, the American election, the previous one, not this one. And I don't know if he was particularly running ads, but that stuff was getting shared a lot. But it is basically just fun, entertaining content, nothing too serious, really.
Yeah. So sort of like an example would be, like you could, I mean, pick certain industries or certain topics, for example, like pets. I mean, that's a huge niche, and you could even break it down even further. So, for example, you could create a post like, I don't know, 11 funny Dachshund dog pictures, right? I'll be a little bit more specific, but that's an example. And I'm using that as example because when we ran one of our niche sites, which was all around pets, we ran a niche site, and that was always a really popular post, wasn't it? We kind of, it's all about testing. We'd tweak a load of stuff, we'd write a load of articles out, we'd publish a load of stuff, and then you'd see the ones that would hit almost organically first, wouldn't you? And then you'd say, well, hang on a minute, that's got quite a lot of engagement just organically. So then that would be one that you would pick then perhaps to boost and to use some Facebook ads with. And the great thing about Facebook ads is the targeting. So you could really, really niche down your ad, and you could target specifically people who liked Dachshund dogs, right? Because there'd be a load of pages related to Dachshund dogs. So you basically set up your targeting around the interest of that, and create a small enough audience that would get good engagement. So say you had an audience of 50,000 people that I don't know, let's say there were, women who lived in the US between the age of 35 and 50 who liked Dachshund dogs, right? And that would be your ad, okay? And then you'd spend money on that ad, send it over to the post, and then obviously scattered within the post. Now the rules have changed a bit. I'll have to double check that. I don't know. You probably know more than me about that. But I think we only used to put sort of 3 ads on a page at any one time. This was going back 4 or 5 years ago. And then obviously the money that we would generate from that would be higher than what we would spend. So that's an example of the type of post. These weren't complex posts. These weren't, people didn't necessarily go there to learn something, did they? They didn't go there to solve a problem. It was literally kill 2 minutes on the coffee break, and then hopefully share it with their friends. Oh, have you seen this? Look at how cute these dogs are, whatever, and so on and so on. And then it would get that kind of viral effect. In some cases, they would go mental, wouldn't they? Some of them would explode and go, insanely viral.
Some went incredibly viral. I mean, you probably paid for a holiday out of Dachshund lovers, especially the women in America. There was a huge target for them, and to the point that we actually designed a few T-shirts to go around certain breeds of animals, which we use with Sunfrog, which is not necessarily advertising click arbitrage, but it's still the same sort of principle, is that we were driving traffic back to the website, and we were generating money from commissions, affiliate commissions from T-shirt sales within. So we were getting that on top of the ads. But as you said, we back in them day we had about 3 ads per page. I think it's up to 5 ads, but I'm a bit confused myself because I don't know if you're generating a lot of money, if they allow you to more. But I've been on some websites where they seem to have like 100 Google AdSense sites on there. When you're scrolling down, they just keep popping up. So I don't really know how it works. I mean, I was dabbling with a website not so long back where I think we got a warning for having too many ads, and that was, I think I pushed it up to 6.
Yeah.
So I think we have 5. But I mean, there's ways of getting around that, as you say. They're simple posts, and they are not something that you have to think about heavily. I see them all the time. In fact, I'm starting to see people advertising on Facebook again, these kind of websites, these articles. Yeah. So whether there's some, I think there's obviously a lot of traction still in this style of business now with Facebook. But I'm starting to see a lot of them, and they can be just simply like 10 British celebrities, or I think I've seen some recently, which was like 10 Hollywood stars you didn't know were British.
Yeah.
It's things that make you curious. And then when you land on the website itself, the images are set up there's different ways of doing it. You can have a long page with all your images, so you just keep scrolling down, the adverts pop up, or you have like a gallery where you have to go through them, and or even link to another page, because with WordPress you can do a post and break it up into like several pages, even though it's just the one post. So you can break it up within the post itself.
Yep.
Every time you click through to another page, so for example on the first page you've got 3 pictures of Dachshund dogs, then at the bottom it'll say click here to see more, and then you go through to another 3 pop up. So does another advert. Now, as you said before, it is about the traffic. You obviously want as much traffic as you can get there, but the whole idea is the traffic is to have it circulating through your website, so you're generating more page views.
Yes.
So, for example, you can have 1,000 people go to your website. If that 1,000 people generate, say, £5, that's great. But if that 1,000 people had to go through 3 or 4 different pages of the same post, then you are basically multiplying your 1,000 by, you turn it into 3,000 to 4,000 page views, which then increases your potential revenue. One of the great things that always made me chuckle about Google AdSense was how you are not allowed to make your navigation buttons look like an advert. You had to be very careful at the bottom. So they always got, anybody who lands on your page has to be able to navigate to the next page or to the next post, and they have to see it clearly. So you're not allowed to make your buttons look like a Google ad. Apart from Google Ad like to make their adverts look like navigation buttons. It always kind of baffled me. I mean, I know they're slightly different if you was in different browsers, but they'd always have these little text ads with like an arrow button at the end, which just looked like a navigation button. And one of the tricks that we used to do, and we've been pulled up on it a couple of times, but if you place your adverts in between the bottom of the content and the navigation button, and one of those adverts come up, then people who are scrolling around on their phones or their tablets while they're looking will just see that arrow without even reading the text and click on it.
Yeah.
And as you know, when you click on an advert, you actually get paid more than you do just impressions. So there's cost per million, or whatever, cost per mille, however they pronounce it, and cost per click. So you get paid a larger amount of money if someone clicks on an advert, or if you get 1,000 page views, then you just earn a general amount of money for that those adverts being shown to people. So one of the little tricks was, as you know, was to place your adverts between the navigation buttons. And we didn't actually create the navigation buttons to look like Google ads.
No.
But we did actually make them look different so people could see them. But we would put the advert between the content and the nav button, and then we'd probably even give it a couple of spaces. So we dropped the nav buttons down a fraction, and then just hopefully, rely on Google to throw one of their wonderful navigation button looking like advert, so people scrolling through and click on it.
Yep. Which, and it sounds a bit grey hat, and it is to a degree, but this was sort of when the penny dropped, wasn't it? Really, we've been umming and ahhing about doing one of these for a while, and we we sort of tried it, and we were doing a load of page one. We were doing a load of one-page articles. Okay, we were doing okay. We were getting okay traffic, and it wasn't until we split one up that we saw the transformation literally overnight. You know, it was like you say, it was tenfold almost. Like the traffic went from, or not the traffic, but the page views, and therefore the ad revenue would multiply by 5, 6, 10 in some cases, because people are clicking through to, you know, various different pages. And again, like Andy says, I mean, I'm sure we could even put up the data now, but you know, hands down, the best performing ad every time was the bottom of content page one ad, because that would be the one where they would click through, they'd accidentally click it, or they'd intentionally click it on some cases, but they'd accidentally click that one. It's probably not, it's probably a bit frowned upon these days. But anyway, so that was one way. The other thing that that was great actually, but I think just kind of going one step further on that, I guess the trade-off is user experience versus ad revenue, and how you think about that. And if you're okay with having a really ugly looking website that, you know, is clunky, it takes ages to load, and you know full well that people are accidentally clicking on the ads, they're not really seeing the post, they're not really getting the content out, but you're making some bank out of it, then that's fine. I wouldn't expect that person to then go back and share your site with their friends, come back to it voluntarily later on. It's literally going to be a one user visit, probably that's it, unless they get a sponsored ad again. So as a longevity model, it's probably not that wise. But again, they work, and they were, well, they used to work, and I still see them around now. And like you say, you know, there's a hell of a lot of sites like that now. And the next point I want to bring up, which we can talk about, is I actually see these type of websites now advertised within an ad platform, and this is what we call native ads, which is quite often sort of down the bottom. So like you'd say, you know, like you have this related post. So let's say you have a blog article, and at the bottom of that, you know, you could have related posts which would lead on to other posts, usually within that same site. So what native ads are is they are meant to look like, you know, other blog posts, what other readers are, you know, what readers are reading now, you know, what other people are viewing, this, that, and the other. So like you see on all the major news network websites now, they've all got them at the bottom usually. And these are native ads. And these basically just click through to another website, and it'll again be doing the same thing. So we used to use one called content ad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to use one called content ad. Again, there's a load of these around now. So that's another little area to an area to look into. I actually think with content ad, didn't we make affiliate sales off them as well?
We did. That's, I mean, well, there's quite a bit we can talk about these. I mean, there's content ad, there's Taboola. There was another one the other day I came across.
Outbrain, I think.
Outbrain. There's some where you've got to jump through more hoops or have a lot of traffic. But these networks, unlike Google AdSense, you can earn money from them, but you can also run ads. I know with Google you've got AdSense, then you've got their ad network, which are two separate ones. But with things like, with Taboola and sort of content ad, they allow you to have basically two different accounts within the one account. And so there are people in there who are using these ads to not just send people to websites for click arbitrage. They're sending them there as in there's affiliate products. We once made, I think it was $30 off one ad click, if I remember rightly. It was, and I think it went to like a ClickBank product. So somebody was advertising a ClickBank product on there. We ended up with it on our site. And so when they someone clicked through to it, we got paid $30 just for that one click. And one thing I like about, well, I like or dislike, it depends on how you look at it. With Taboola, content ad, and I can't remember the name of this other platform. but they seem to be less picky when it comes to, say, Google and Facebook. Because, a lot of the things that we used to do was we used to use not clickbait, they were click curious headlines. There's two different things. Clickbait is where you use a specific headline to drive someone to a website and they don't get what they're expecting. So which is kind of like spam. Click curious is where you make the headline so curiously enticing that they have to go and see it, but it's still it's still the same story.
Yeah.
People still call it clickbait, and a lot of people still call it spam because they didn't like the fact that it wasn't as exciting as they thought. But we used to make these click curious headlines, and Facebook and Google are often a bit frowny on them, and especially on with the pictures. You try and put your picture on your advert on Facebook, and it could go against you big time. Some of these other websites, like Content Ad and Taboola, they seem to be a little bit more risque and less, because you go to the bottom of the website and you'll see these ads supplied by Taboola, and you look and you think, how have you got away with that? And so obviously then you look and you think, people are going to click through that because it is a lot more enticing.
Yeah.
So I've noticed a lot of people are using, instead of going to Facebook, because Facebook is like the Apple world of, I suppose, technology. It's like the Samsung. It's the big name. Everybody knows about Facebook. And so they go there, but that means that Facebook charge more. If you go to some of these other advertising networks, like you say, the native ads, they charge less. And they still put your ad across hundreds, if not thousands of websites in front of thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
So you're paying less.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, I've no doubt that this model still works because people are still doing it. I mean, you wouldn't get these, you wouldn't have these massive sites up, and all they are usually they're list posts, aren't they? So that what we mean by that is like, like I mentioned earlier about Dash and Dogs, but another one we used to do was about nurses. Funny enough, and that was always a big hit because the interest targeting was there and it was with Facebook and stuff like that. But with Taboola and with Outbrain and Content Ad, it may be a bit more generalized. It may be a bit more, like you mentioned earlier about you won't believe these 10 Hollywood actors that are British or whatever. And then you quite often see that. And it might be a little bit of a risky image, possibly, or it might be a little bit of an intriguing image, i.e., almost off shot. So what you're meant to be looking at is not even in the shot, and there could be like an arrow pointing off the image to get you to sort of think, well, what's behind that bit? And then, like you say, the whole selling point of that headline is to literally just get you to click. That's it. And then, like you say, you click through to the site, and then you go on the article, and 99.9% of the time, they're either going to be selling something, so getting a commission, or there's going to be a multi-page click through. It'd be 10 images, 15 images, 20 images, whatever. And every page or every other page, you will have to click through. And every time you do that, there'll be ads that will be triggered, which, let's not be too negative about ads. I know it does sometimes put users off, but the internet is free, and a lot of these sites, they're making them, all these guys that they're churning out hours under the sun, and that may be their only revenue income from them websites. And it is unfortunately the way of the world, and we are fed these ads now across all social media platforms, TV, radio, phones. It is the part of it. It's what funds, the internet, and we have to sort of remember that.
A lot of the adverts that you see, especially on the native ones, like I say, their images are, because I keep seeing several, and they always seem to be, if I can say it, well-endowed ladies, and it'll always be something like something to do with this photographer caught these at the airport or something.
I see that one. Yeah.
And it'll all be something, and there's going to be a load of sort of red, hot-blooded males and females who will be going, I want to, I'll have a look at that. And so they click through, and you just know that the people are clicking through. And it's like you say, there's list posts, the 10 cutest cockapoodles,
dogs,
the
cats,
15 Yeah, the 15 best or 15 worst tattoo fails ever.
They're quite popular, aren't they? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The 14 funniest Star Trek memes, whatever you call them.
Yeah. They'll say that sort of thing. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's there's so much, and then like I say, there's the headlines that drive people to them. But
Mm.
but like I say, you see, it works because if you can get a load of traffic for say like £1, and you can get £2 in ad revenue, and then there's like the extras, like you say, we created T-shirts which we put in, and you do that because
Trainers, I think, as once as well, didn't we?
sorry.
Did we sell trainers like Dash and trainers?
Possibly. I mean, you had you set up an Amazon shop for quite a few
Yeah, that
things.
was
You
it.
did. I think you did a post to do with like the 10 or 15 best Dashhound gifts,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect.
And they were pointing to all kinds of places.
Mm.
But with the T-shirts as well, if you get a T-shirt sale, and affiliate T-shirt sale, not necessarily one of your own, but for somebody else's, that's like a straight $7, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
for T-shirt on top of, because we helped generate, we created like near enough $1,000 one month on T-shirt sales.
Yeah.
As well as the advertising revenue coming from Google AdSense, which was rather impressive.
And content ad, I think, as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's good. Okay, so I just want to quickly add as well. There are. I know with some of the ad networks, they will work with you with regards to setting up. Because I see our local newspaper down here in the Southampton is the Daily Echo, and they use Taboola, and they've actually set it up so that the Taboola ads are very, very. You wouldn't notice the difference. They're branded almost in the same way as the rest of the paper. So the rest of the website. So it looks really good, and it's almost sort of hard to distinguish whether that's. I mean, it is clearly allowed because they do it. But so there's a couple of other ad networks, like we briefly mentioned at the top there, which was Mediavine, which is again more kind of AdSense type stuff. There are restrictions on a lot of these. I mean, I know you can't get in on them without a minimum of 25,000 page views. There's another one called Ezoic, which is again a similar one to Mediavine and AdSense. They want, I think, a minimum of 10,000 page views. So they're achievable. I mean, the 10,000 one is achievable if you really, really wanted to go for it. Mm-hmm. Just start churning out some material and share it around on Facebook and Twitter and boost some posts and get some ads and then get some traffic. And then eventually you'll be able to get in with one of them. And then they kind of take over your ad placement and everything. They'll do all your placements for you and they sort of look after you and you almost become a partner with them. So that's really good. I mean, that's kind of it. We are getting to sort of the end of it now, but any sort of closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I think I guess definitely a business model that people should try, and I think there's also the scope here to do an experiment, an outsourcing experiment, as well as ad arbitrage. You want to use sort of labor arbitrage because you and I both know that we have some friends overseas who. For $200, you can get roughly around 20 hours work a week from certain people. So some of these emerging economies. So if you are really interested, you could actually probably put aside 2 months, train up somebody overseas to basically source a lot of the content. Because that as well, that's another thing. A lot of the content that we shared wasn't particularly ours or new. We'd often find something on another website, and then we would just sort of curate the content in our own way on our own site. So you could train somebody up to do that. You focus on doing the sharing, the building up the social media and monitoring, I suppose, the adverts. You could actually build that up. I mean, you could actually end up with generating more in advertising revenue, which is costing you in not just the ad spend alone, but also the labor. And then you end up building a website, which, as you say, you're getting thousands of views. If that's the case, then you can move from AdSense up to Mediavine, which I think pay out more than AdSense. Yeah. And you also have got yourself a website, which eventually you can sell. If it's earning money and it's got traffic, then you're in a position to sell it for.
What's the return? Say, like what is the return now on a website? Obviously, it's got to be generating. So then,
it's basically If I think over the last 3 months, if it's been generating, let's say you've got a website generating £1,000 each month for the last 3 months, then the value of the website is around 12 grand, between 12 and 24. unless, of
Yeah.
course, somebody can see more potential in it. So
Okay.
basically, that if there's more potential in it, then you can charge more. But basically, it is 12 to 24 months of your monthly income.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great. So that's probably it for us then today, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
great. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more of an insight into what ad arbitrage is. And if you've got any questions on that, or if you've got any feedback, or is there anything you want to share, then just get in touch with one of us. My name's John Banks. I'm over at sideincommand.com, and I've been with...
I'm Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com. I'd just like to say thank you very much again. Hope you enjoyed this show. It's actually got me excited again, to be fair. Got me thinking. So, so, thank you very much, and we shall speak to you again next week in next week's podcast.
Thanks very much.